Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Today my friends at Sideshow have asked me to take a look at this, the Spider-Man 2099 Black Suit 6-scale figure from Marvel's Spider-Man by Hot Toys. Let's see how it turned out. Okay, first up as always is the packaging, and there's some really cool stuff going on with this one. First thing I want to bring to everybody's attention is this photograph of the figure itself. Looking at it, I can tell that it's the figure because of the, it seems to be the figure at any rate, because I am seeing some wrinkles going on here that are consistent with what we'd see in the fabric. If this is actually a screenshot from the video game, then I've really got to play that video game because it is really highly detailed. The textures are magnificent, just look at it. What really comes to mind though is if this is actually the figure on the front, then look at that range of motion on that leg, the way that it's coming over the top. I'm kind of excited to see what that's going to be capable of, if that suit can actually hold that pose. But moving on to the rest of the packaging, you can see the Marvel Spider-Man logo right here from the video game, as well as the identifying text here, signifying that this is the 2099 black suit, as if you couldn't tell from the photograph. VGM042, part of the video game Masterpiece series, as we see down there at the bottom, as well as the Hot Toys branding and the Sideshow exclusive sticker indicating that it's exclusive to Sideshow in this market. Moving around to the side, there is some red tinted photographs, screenshots if you will, from the video game itself that are featured here in this, on this little side panel here. It also starts actually around on the front, see there, and then it just kind of wraps around to that side in a really attractive fashion. That web that starts on this end is leading around. That also looks plastic. I'm thinking again that that is a photograph of the suit on the front. Moving around to the back, we have all that typical legalese, as well as a warning or two. Yawn, but it's necessary, and they do it in a really attractive way. This side panel is really attractive. I love that stark white Spider-Man logo there on the side, and just that thin, sexy pinstripe going down there with the obligatory text identifying the figure. If you're gonna have it stored on a shelf in like a book, sort of a bookish sort of a way, then that's a really attractive way to look at it. Apart from that, I think that everybody really wants to see what I want to see, and that's what the figure looks like in the box. So let's get it out of there and find out. Okay, everyone, here he is, the Spider-Man Black 2099 suit 6-scale figure by Hot Toys from Marvel Spider-Man. Still in his box, exactly the way that he's going to come to you. It's got a lot of hands and a lot of webbing, but we've come to expect that from the Marvel Spider-Man line from Hot Toys. Spider-Man's got some pretty dynamic hands. He does a lot of crazy things with them, whether it's in the comic books or in the video game itself. So that comes as no surprise. Now, in addition to this assortment of hands, which as I said we've come to expect, we also have these. These are the web shooters. And in every single one of these hands, you have to install this web shooter every time that you want to bring it into play. The reason for this is different. I haven't experienced this. It's possible, of course, that some other figures have this that I just don't have in my arsenal. I haven't attempted it yet. I just took a quick glance at the instructions, and that's what they told me that they're for. So I'll play with those later once I start doing the posing session. But what you see here, in addition to all these different webbings, and they're all pretty standard. There's nothing out of the ordinary here with the webs. You've got the figure itself, which comes in another one of those famous Hot Toys skin-tight suits that are becoming more and more effective as the figures progress, as they progress with their technology. These things, sharp. Be careful, and also be careful not to break them when you're taking it into and putting it into the box and taking it out of the box. I'm not sure that you can. They're pretty flexible, pretty pliable, as are these, by the way. This is quite soft. I can tell already that these are going to bend when you're doing a torso ab crunch or a torso twist, what have you. We'll see to what extent. But I want to call your attention to this because it's really cool. Look at that. Look at that fantastic, and you're probably seeing my reflection in it, but look at that fantastic artwork on that base. That just gorgeous, almost profile shot of Miguel O'Hara in his Marvel 29 Spider-Man suit. It's actually Peter Parker in the video game, I believe, but in the comic books, it's Miguel, and I'm just going to go with that when I talk about it. And that's it. So what really I want to do is to see what I can do with this in a posing session. So let's get cracking on that. Okay, here he is, the Spider-Man 2099 6-scale figure. Wow. Okay. since I did my reveal of the box, I went back and took a closer look at some of the footage on YouTube from the video game. And what I determined is that my earlier impressions were totally not spot on. This looks remarkably identical to the way that the figure looks, the way that the suit looks in the game. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be. This is, in point of fact, a replica of the suit as it appears in the video game. The suit in the video game is based on the Miguel O'Hara suit from Spider-Man 2099, but it is not, in fact, the suit from Spider-Man 2099, the comic book. It's just an interpretation of it. So with that in mind, first of all, then that they've really done a bang-up job. This looks so much like the high-def, the 4K footage that I saw, that I'm quite frankly astounded. Now, the image on the front of the box, and I can just go ahead and bring that up here again. This image right here that we talked about earlier. On closer inspection and looking at the game itself, the gameplay itself, the gameplay footage itself, I can tell that this is very much a rendering of the suit as it appears in the game. This is not, in point of fact, a photograph of the figure itself. You can just look at the box and at the figure and tell that that's not the case. I hadn't done my homework, I guess, or maybe I just had high hopes and thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool to do that with a leg? But I can't imagine any universe in which a 6-scale figure is going to be able to pull that off, especially not wearing a suit like this. So, what can it do? Let's find out. I think I want to have him swinging and holding a web. So here's this. This web requires a special hand. That's this one right here that has a hole in it. So that's the hand that I'll be using there. And you know what? I'm going to change my mind on this. So we're just going to get a semi-dynamic pose of Spider-Man in his 2099 suit, just looking menacing and creepy. Probably just the way that J. Jonah Jameson imagines him in his sleep. I can say that because this suit and J. Jonah Jameson exist in the same timeline in the video game, at least as far as I've been able to ascertain. I mean, Miles Morales is there, so why wouldn't Jonah be there? Okay, so let's just do something. Hear that? We've got ratchets in them joints. That's cool. We also know that we have a 90-degree forward bit of motion there. We can go up to 90 degrees. On this, we can go up to 100 degrees, I believe, on the elbows. So let's see what we can do with that. I'm just gonna spread this out. Stretch it. We got a good amount of play in these toes. Just check that out. And by the way, hats off to Guy. Tread check. I'm just going to try some rotation. Now, one thing I will point out is that in the directions, in the instruction manual, they don't usually do this, but they are actually limiting you to a certain amount of forward torso bend and a certain amount of back torso bend. So I can't remember what the exact, angle is, what the exact, degrees, number of degrees that you're allowed to go for on this. Now, what am I thinking here? That's what people have been asking for a long time. Terry, what were you thinking? So I'm just playing around and I'm trying to get some inspiration in my head here because I want this to be a Spider-Man pose, but at the same time, I also want it to be sort of reminiscent of like a monster movie sort of a pose. So I want him to be kind of scary. Let's just give him a little bit more. All right, now look at what's happening here. I'm just not really comfortable with how that's going so far. The nice thing though is all the play that you have in the joints on this thing. All right, that's something. I'm seeing this from a particular angle that you're not seeing it from. But wide-legged. Just go ahead and do a little bit more. Yeah, it's got the play for it. Huh. Sometimes these things just kind of fall into place. Sometimes these things just kind of fall into place, and I'm thinking that this might just be one of those times. So my thought is just have Miguel, Peter Miguel, Peter O'Hara, Miguel Parker, just like he's ready to pounce. I'm going to go ahead and bring this leg forward just a touch more and bend that knee back to compensate. Just trying to find that balance can sometimes be challenging. So I want the hands to be kind of like he's bringing this arm back, like he's getting ready to spring and lunge at you with these claws. The claws which are unique to this suit when it comes to Spider-Man. So if you wanted to do this, all right, so here you go. If you just wanted to have him being kind of like scary, like one of those people at Halloween Horror Nights getting ready to jump out at you, then this could be a way that you could go. It's not wanting to cooperate insofar as the balance. Oh, I lied. Look at that. We got balance. So yeah, that could be one way that you could go. If your display is such that you just want to have him displayed with zero support, no stand up there, then that is one option. Just imagine that you can have one or two other figures on either side of him. Maybe he's flanking like the advanced suit figure. So that you would have just using this to supplement one of the more prominent figures, like the classic costume or the advanced suit costume. Even the Iron Spider-Man costume would be a nice one to accompany this. But man, just look at all those different textures. Wow. How many different textures were they able to get into this plastic suit? That's just remarkable. Okay. So that is one way that you could go. You notice that you got a good amount of lateral motion in those legs there. So that's plenty of really solid range of motion. Now keep in mind when you're posing this, by the way, that his web shooters are always going to want to be back here, lining up with the bottoms of his palms. So, all right, so that's something. But I think I also want to do a web swinging pose like I talked about earlier. It's Spider-Man and... Oh, wait. Nah, okay. I was thinking that I might want to try to have Spider-Man holding his webs like he was getting ready to swing something at somebody, but there are really no manhole covers, for instance, that you can tap into and use. There is, however, that aforementioned web swinging hand, and I'm going to bring that back into play. And in addition, I am going to bring in a web shooter hand. So I've seen rumors, people saying that Miguel O'Hara's webbing is organic. That's not what my memory of the character is, and it's been a long time since I've read Spider-Man 2099. I did not pick up any of the newer incarnations. My memory of Miguel O'Hara dates all the way back to the 90s, boys and girls. And a lot's happened between then and now. So my memory's not going to be exact, but I think that he actually had an advanced sort of a web shooter, similar to what we would see with Peter Parker, only obviously with another 100 years worth of technology applied to it. Now, go in here. Let's see, how far up can I bring this comfortably? So that's going to be back here. These always look bad when you get them started. I mean, if you were going to leave that as your pose, and some people might, then you'd just be like, okay, dude, have you seen Spider-Man? And you would be right to ask that. But I'm just going to twist his head in a really contorted way. Let's just go ahead and bring that leg up as far as I can, stretch that out. And again, get some more lateral motion on that. And bring that down. I'm going to rotate this around to see if I've got multiple good angles on him. And I do not. It looks kind of blah from this angle, as you can see. It looks a little bit better as you turn it around this way. And from head on, it looks pretty darn good, but I think we can do better than this. So looking at that, what would make that better? Yeah, that's something. Get that leg stretched out just a little bit, like he's bringing this leg up. I just want to check to make sure I'm not going more than the aforementioned 90 degrees of play there. And just want to spin this. Yeah, I think that you could do it like this and it would be fine, but watch how if you just twist that just a little bit more, then you just get more of a suggestion of motion, direction. It gives you more direction. So we're just gonna go with that and raise that up just a touch more just to tempt fate. Get this back. I'm gonna twist his arm around and rotate this hand to compensate. Let's see. This rotates nicely. So what I'm going to do is spin that. I kind of want that hand to be I want that webbing to be going back even more. So I'm going to pop this off and take this peg and rotate it 90 degrees so that it moves more of in an up-down direction. Let's see. Get that back over. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. Boom. And you can just, the ratchets are very satisfying, by the way. I don't know if anybody's ever just listened to the sound that they make or just enjoyed the feel of the ratchets clicking in the pegs and in the points of articulation. So let's go ahead and bring that down. And we can move this web shooter over that wrist peg a bit just to minimize the profile of that thing. Yeah. And let's crunch his abs. No, I want him stretching. Yeah. Like he's trying to get to the maximum distance on that peg that he can. Now, fully pliable stand here. Now this stand that I have is not locked into place, so I may have to break out a screwdriver here and do some work with that. But no, it's gonna let me do it.
I've loved the look of this suit ever since the early days of the Spider-Man 2099 comic book back in the 90s. This isn't your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. It's much more terrifying as the claws and the spikes coming out of the arms and that more menacing Punisher-esque skull-like spider logo on the front would suggest. So while you can still pull off all those web-swinging shenanigans that you're used to with a Spider-Man figure, the nature of this costume lends itself to some more horrific posing potential. If I were being honest, my first glimpse at the suit while it was still in the box left me a little bit underwhelmed. But the fact is that the more I played with it, the more I had out of the box, and the more I compared it to footage of the costume in the video game itself, the more impressed I became. The multiple contrasting textures, as well as the subtle difference in the hues of the costume itself, really impressed me. So much so that I stayed up way too late last night playing with it. But sleep is for the weak, am I right? Hope you all enjoyed the video, and remember as always to be good to your plastic.
Hey, did you like that video? Be sure to subscribe by clicking the S icon on your screen and click that bell icon to be notified whenever a new video is posted. If you'd like more info on the items featured in this video, click the link provided under Product Info. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to let your geek side show.